All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this month's From the Bench studio tour. My name is Sarah Songer, and I'm the program and studio manager at the San Francisco Center for the Book. And today we're thrilled to have Gillian Stewart of Juju.books as our guest. Gillian is a prize-winning designer bookbinder from Glasgow, Scotland. She works full-time from her studio, making bespoke books and enclosures, artist books, design bindings, and teaching students. A graduate of Glasgow School of Art, Gillian is also a Quest Craft Ambassador, past chair of the Society of Bookbinders in Scotland, and licensed designer bookbinders. Gillian has recently started incorporating letterpress print and writing into her work after a residency at enclosures. And with that, we're going to spotlight Gillian. It's all yours.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be zooming across to San Francisco. It is 8:30 at night here in Scotland, so that's why I look a little bit tired and fuzzy-eyed, and it's quite dark here. I have a Scottish accent, as you can tell, and I'm going to try to have it on its best behaviour. But if anybody's struggling to understand anything that I've said, please just comment in the chats, and I'll try to repeat. So I'm just going to share my screen because the camera on this isn't great. And I'll zoom right back to the top. There we go. So, there we go. So this is me. I am Gillian Stewart. I run my bookbinding company, Juju.books, from the East End of Glasgow, which is a fantastic place to run a business, especially if you're a creative person. There's lots of good creative stuff going on. And this is where I'm coming to you from today. This is my wee studio. It doesn't always look this tidy, but this is where I spend probably the most of my time. And it's got the usual things that you'd expect in a bindery, although I never seem to have enough surface space, and there's always a new bit of equipment that I convince myself it's very important to buy. So I started off, I'll talk a little bit about my business and the sort of work that I do and my path to getting there, but I thought because a lot of you are bookbinders or book people, I've tried to focus on some projects that I thought might be a bit more interesting to you, and some projects which have just been on the bench this week. The title is From the Bench Of, so I thought I'd keep it relevant and current, so it's going to be a mix of projects. But I went to Glasgow School of Art, where I studied illustration. I did some printmaking and a tiny bit of bookbinding, and that's where it really started. I got so excited about the form that books can take and how they can affect the content, and that kind of took over the content that I was making. So that was where bookbinding got its hooks in me. And after graduation, I got a traineeship in a trade bookbinders in Glasgow. And then I went on to get a Quest Craft Scholarship. That's an organisation in the UK that promotes and supports craft. And they funded me to undertake some quite intensive training for 2 years in bookbinding, which was kind of life-changing. I studied fine binding with Tom McEwen, and I also went to Ascona, the Centro di Bel Libro in Switzerland, and Professional Libro in Italy, and learned about these just wild structures that you can make that I'd never seen before. So like rod bindings and clever things you can do with the spines of books and the structures, as well as boxes as well. These are made with Court Ayersons. And then through the process of my training, I kind of accidentally ended up with a business. I'm not naturally entrepreneurial at all, but I realized that there was nobody that was going to hire me in their company to make the sort of creative books that I wanted to make. And I had looked, I tried really hard, but it just wasn't going to happen. So I kind of had to do it for myself, which has been a steep learning curve, but I've been going for 6 years and I'm still going. So that's a huge surprise to everybody, me most of all, but it's kind of my dream job. So yeah, the business, I think a lot of bookbinders have to have a business that does several different things. So I take on bespoke orders, or what I think in the States you call custom orders, and stationery. I do quite a bit of teaching, which I really enjoy because I'm mostly by myself, so that gets me talking to people. And I do fine bindings, which are the sort of bindings that you'd spend 4 weeks on, using like the highest quality materials and complicated processes. But most of what I do is what we call bench work or production work. So things like this order, which was 125 boxes for a collaborative letterpress and writing project. I'm quite lucky that a lot of the clients that I work with are people that I really like working with and projects that I get excited about. And you tend to be graphic designers or photographers or artists in some way, or brands that need some sort of exciting packaging. So yeah, this is another order for 150 boxes. So that's kind of like the top limit of what I can manage. And usually then I'll need to hire people to help me out. And this was a binding for client in Saudi Arabia, which was 12 books with magnetic closures and exposed sewing. And those 12 books had to be sewn in 1 week, which was quite bananas. So sometimes book binding's pretty intense. And as well as client work, where there's high quantities, I also take on one-off custom books. So this was a cyanotype printed cover for the book Landmarks by Robert McFarlane, who I was just speaking to Sarah about. And this is actually with the author, which was very exciting. And these are some shots from a recent exhibition that I had of my work in a design gallery. And I think a lot of the design world doesn't really know that much about bookbinding. So I was really keen to make friends with different disciplines and mediums. So yeah, it was kind of an educational exhibition to try and promote bookbinding further than just the bookbinding world. I've been thinking about this recently because I have a solo exhibition opening on Saturday. And I'm remembering, how do I do this? How do I display books again? What's the best way to show them? Because they're quite challenging sometimes. So I've included this, I suppose, because it's in my mind at the moment. And then I also make limited runs of stationery, or sort of more what you think of as products, so notebooks and sketchbooks and boxes. I feel quite passionate about the fact that craft should be accessible, and not everyone can afford a custom binding or a fine binding. So I'm really keen to make opportunities for craft to be available to people at a lower price point, but still to be handcrafted and beautiful, hopefully. So I've got all these different bits to my business going on. And then I also teach in my wee studio. And I remember how difficult it was to learn bookbinding when I was training. And, you know, I'm so envious of everybody in the States with all the places to learn bookbinding, because in the UK, there's no North Bennett Street or Centre for the Book in Scotland anyway. So I'm quite keen to make opportunities for people to learn bookbinding. So I really like doing workshops. And then I've included a few shots of design bindings, because often these are the sorts of books that go to collectors that aren't, you know, you just not often you get to see a fine binding. So I've included some wee shots for you all. This is a hand-sewn end band for this book, which went to Suntop Editions in California. So it was an edition that I made last year for them. Usually you would have one fine binding as a complete one-off, but this was an order for 10, which is quite unusual and was a new challenge. But I was really pleased with how they went. And it had hand-painted fly leaves with platinum leaf sprinkled on top, and then platinum tooling on hand-dyed airbrush leather. And this is a wee airbrushed edge decoration. I keep coming back to gradients in my work. I don't know whether to keep going with it or to move on to something different, but they still capture me. And a cyanotype printed fine binding here. And this was another cyanotype printed book, which was the writing of, I've forgotten his name now, but it was illustrated by George Bain, who's a very well-known Scottish Pictish Celtic artist. So I was trying to sort of convey some of that without being derivative, and to echo Woad, in the colour scheme, but make it feel like it's something a bit ancient. And it had a screen printed book cloth matching box. Really get excited about boxes. I don't know. I feel like book people are like, yes, boxes. And this is a little detail of a paste down, which was hand painted, and then the leather joint, and this is on the end papers, the leather joint was finished with gold to continue the design, which was a real, what we'd say in Scotland, a faff. It took a long time and it was really tricky, but I think it was worth it. And another fine binding, which was airbrushed and hand dyed with onlays. This was Hewitt's Fair Goat. I think I saw David from Hewitt's, fantastic leather suppliers in Scotland. This was their leather, lovely. So the fine bindings are where I can be a bit creative, but then during lockdown, a lot of work sort of disappeared. So I got to spend a bit more time making artist books on my own content, and I hadn't done that for so long. And I wanted to do more of that. So last year I got a few grants to go to in Cahoots in California, and also to just go and pester every bookie person I could find in San Francisco. And I was made to feel so welcome. In Cahoots is in Petaluma, for anyone who doesn't know, run by the incredible Macy. And it's a letterpress, book arts, printing, bookbinding residency, also writing. And it was my first ever residency, and it was so great. It's had such an impact on my work. I'll share a little bit more about the books that I made shortly, but I just included this picture on the side here of Arian Press, who I just turned up to one day and asked if I could look at their books, and then the lovely Jeff, who I think I saw, hi Jeff, really kindly came back on his day off and gave me a private tour, and it was just so incredible to spend time there. Because as bookbinders, we often work with letterpress printed books, but we don't meet the printer, or we don't have as much a connection to how they're printed. But there's so much skill and care and design and thought that goes into the printing of these books. And then a bookbinder has to put their own design onto the book. But I think we also have to be mindful of the decisions that the printer's made. So it becomes sort of like a collaboration with someone that you never meet. And I think to meet a printer and to talk to a printer, look them in the eye, it gives me more respect for the prints that I'm going to be working with going forward. So yeah, so what I'm working on now, this kind of brings us up to now. I have this exhibition / book launch on Saturday. So it's going to be an exhibition of recent work that I've made, a lot of it at In Cahoots. And it's also going to be a book launch for this book here, which I haven't written. It's written by a man called Gordon Thompson on the west coast of Scotland, and it's about the changing culture and west coast shepherds and sheep farming culture. So he's written it, but I have typeset it, printed it, illustrated it, and bound it, which is a huge job and has given me a real appreciation again of the skill that goes into printing. But it's so long since I've created a book, which is largely my content, so this is a lovely opportunity. And the writing is fab. I won't do a reading. Maybe one day. But yeah, this book is, it's been launched on Saturday, so I've been furiously casing in books today, getting that all ready, getting them in the press. And it's a very thin book, it's just one section with boards that are just 1.5 mil thick, so it's quite a wee book. And I couldn't decide on a colour for the edition. And when a client comes to me, I really get them to choose a colour, but I was like, do you know what, I'll just be my own worst client and I'll just give myself 5 colours. So there are 5 colours. They're all quite earthy, I thought. Oh, this is another binding which is going into the exhibition, which I made at In Cahoots. And this was a book that I did write. It's a short book. It was letterpress printed, and it was about burnout, because when I arrived on residency I was quite burned out. just from lots of projects and running a business through a pandemic. So it was really the first chance that I got to sit down, and just words just came pouring out of me, very unexpected. But it starts off quite intense, and then as the pages go on, there's less lines and the words get less frantic and more calm. And it's a little, if we go back to the first image, it's a drum leaf binding, single folios that are drummed on to each other. The pages have been pressure printed and then printed with text over the top. So each page is slightly different with the background texture, and then it has this sort of pop out spine piece that tucks into itself. But when the book is closed, the spine piece is flush with the boards. It's quite hard to describe that. Need a laser pointer here. But yeah, one of these got posted out to Puget Sound University recently, and I made it a little box. So it's a very tiny box, it's a very small book. And another project I'm working on at the moment is a commission of a concertina book, which is quite a challenge to bind, because the concertina seems, it's an important part of the book, structurally and conceptually, so I don't want to lose that, but it's also quite hard to corral it into a well-behaved shape. So I've sewn it onto a concertina stub, which has been cyanotype printed with flowers, which relates to the prints inside, and then it's also been foil blocked with the title. These are some tests in the background. So this is the book currently. It's going to have cyanotype printed leather boards with magnets so that you can attach it into its box and read it like a normal book, but then it also folds round itself into a flower shape where you only see the concertina on the outside somehow. It's had so much testing, but it's been a really good challenge. One of those ones where you just have to think by doing. Sketches don't really work. You just got to do the thing. Another fun project from this week that just left was a student came to me who had screen printed a cactus, a series of prints that together formed a cactus, but they were A4 size and she needed to attach them to each other. So we made this out of book cloth and board, so it's bookbinding materials, but it's not a book and it's not a box, but we had to use the same sort of engineering tricks as we do when we're making boxes or joints for cases. So it folds up into this shape, but folds out this size, and in order to have it flat we had to calculate the sizes of the joints accurately. So it is the sort of thing you do need a bookbinder for, but it's not a book. So I thought that might be interesting to you bookie people. And this one, just to give you an idea of what I was doing this week, this morning this order left, and it was a special binding from the friends of an author. He'd written this book about London and the Roman world, and they wanted something that was a bit more fancy than the copy from the bookshop. So we screen printed a map of Roman London onto the book cloth for the book itself, and then it had a slipcase with the Thames River hand tooled onto it, and the little gold dot is where London, well, it was the heart of London at that time. And this is another project I'm working on just now for an illustrator who is known for biro scratchy sort of loose drawings, and this is going to be an edition of 100 books with screen printed drawing onto the book cloth, but it's been quite a challenge because his lines are quite fine, but they've got texture in them that we didn't want to lose. So we work quite closely with a screen printer who very handily is just along the corridor in my studio and screen prints all sorts of things on book cloth for me. So on the left, it was a bit fuzzy, but on the right hand side, we've nailed it after quite a lot of tests. And on this image on the right hand side, we're going to be doing some edge decoration that looks like coloured biro pen scribbles, so that's quite fun. And I suppose this is my next project. I'm making some books for a Scottish calligrapher called Susie Leaper, whose work I have admired for years. She's super cool, does very sort of contemporary, bold, beautiful calligraphy and artwork. And she has handwritten Nan Shepherd's The Living Mountain, which is my favourite book. And she's asked me to bind it into some books for her. But the page size is about A3 and it's on very thick watercolour paper in single folios. And it's either going to be 4 books or 12 books, depending on how thick it is. So that's a puzzle to work out. But we're going to go for like an exposed spine with plain boards, maybe some platinum detail because she's got platinum in the text, and using some shapes from the text. Yeah, it's a good one, but it's quite, it's so precious. It would, if she had to do any of it again, it would take probably years. So that's tucked away in a drawer, very safe at the moment. Yes, that's me. I'm looking more awake than at the moment. And that's my details. Thank you very, very much for having me. It's thank you, Sarah, for hosting me. And thanks to everybody for coming. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and if anybody's got any questions, feel free to let me know.
Thank you so much, Gillian. That was really amazing and inspirational. And I, for one, am boggled by how many projects you said you're working on, like right now and this week. Just your productivity has kind of blown me away.
Oh no.
Is it mostly you? You mentioned hiring on help. Is most of the time it's just you and then you bring people on as needed? It's
mostly me. I am naturally a very fast worker. Sometimes probably too fast, but I am always go, go, go. And if it's a big project with a short time scale, then I'll bring in, I've got like 2 or 3 bookbinders that I trust. So I bring them in.
We had a question about the cyanotype covers. Sinead wanted to know specifically what material you use to seal or finish them, but if you wouldn't mind just talking a bit more about that in general. It looks like you use book cloth as well as leather.
Sure. I haven't sealed them with anything. I don't know if I should be. So I've used paper on the fine binding, and I would assume that a fine binding would be handled carefully and not put in a bag or something. That has recently been on exhibition for about a year, so it's been in and out of its box and handled, and nothing has come off. On the leather, I fix it with a leather dressing, like I do with any leather, but I've not fixed it with anything else. But cyanotype printing, as I understand, is quite a stable print method. Yes.
And something you're doing quite a lot with great effect.
I do. Well, thank you. I have really enjoyed it. I think what I like is the fact that it's kind of, to me, it's unpredictable because I quite like painterly effects and texture and depth in surfaces, and cyanotype printing lets me quickly do quite a lot with. I've got a wee exposure unit, so I don't need to wait for the Glasgow sun because that's unreliable.
That was my next question.
Yeah, I got an exposure unit. It's like a briefcase that contains the sun. It's amazing.
I'm actually really curious. Can you tell us more about that scribble edge decoration? Because I'm picturing you sitting there with a bunch of pens going.
So it will be. There's 100 of them, so I can't do them one at a time. I'll put probably 10 together at a time. So you put the edges in a press in some way, sand it till it's really flat and a nice surface, and then I will be using an ink pen, a fountain pen. There are ways to I mean, if you have a big machine, you can print book edges, and there are some methods of transfer print, but they don't get the same depth of color, at least when I've done them, that we wanted. So we'll be hand scribbling.
That sounds fun.
But wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, definitely. Was that Cactus book a one-off? Was that someone in sort of off the street with a project for you to solve? You're kind of an amazing problem solver, it seems.
it was a bit of a problem to solve. So it's an artist in Glasgow who screen prints. Consuelo, I forget her surname, I'm so sorry, but she'd come to like a group workshop that I'd run for artist books, and then she wanted to go a bit further with this project. So she came with me to learn on one of the books, and then she's going to go off and do, I think it's 2 or 3 more, and then they're going to be displayed in an exhibition. So we kind of problem solve together, but I hope I've armed her with the tools to go and do the rest herself.
Excellent. And that leads me to my next question, which is, you teach workshops. Do you also have ongoing individual students? You know, there's kind of a tradition of ongoing training in a 1-on-1 or 3-on-1 lesson format.
I don't have regular students. I have people who come for maybe 4 or 5 days, or people who come to most workshops, but I don't have someone who comes like every fortnight or something like that. I don't know why. I would be up for it, but I don't know how much of a market there is.
Well, we'll find out when people watch this video and
yeah. I mean, I would love to be able to take on an apprentice at some point in the future, but at the moment, I think it would be quite a challenge for me. I had an intern recently, and it was quite difficult to have somebody in my space all the time. So,
yes. Okay, and if we have a question actually asking if there are magnetic walls behind you. I think I see a magnetic strip
here.
Yeah.
Yes, I can demonstrate.
Oh, do.
So it's a little, little magnetic strip, which I think they were like $4 from the hardware store.
Maybe it's hard to see with the video, a little bit blurry, but it looks like some of your artwork pieces are held up by something that could be magnets. So I think that might be.
Yes, that was a trick I learned at enclosures.
Oh, you've got
this one here, you can't quite, my camera's so bad, I'm so sorry, but there's pins in the wall and then little magnets that go over the prints, so you can display them without damaging them.
Beautiful. All right, well, we're pretty much right at time. I have one more question, which is your sort of non-bespoke craft journals and albums and whatever it is that you make in more accessible items. Do you sell those locally? Like, you don't have a store space where people are just buying off the internet from you, or are they?
Yeah, they're just online. I don't push them as much as a business that would only do products. Because I tend to, if I have a bit of downtime, I'll make a batch. And I'm really, as I say, I'm not naturally entrepreneurial, so I don't promote them as much as I should, but I'm quite lucky that people find me and buy them. So they're just available on my website. I don't sell through stores because the price that I would have to charge for it to be worth me making it would make a notebook like $80. So it's hard to get people to pay that for a notebook.
The bookbinder's dilemma.
Yes, I'm sure most of you understand it's hard, isn't it? But I do like making them. Yeah,
definitely. Well, thank you again, Gillian, for joining us on your Thursday evening. It's been lovely. And thank you all for joining us. Next month on May 4th, we'll be talking with Andrew Hewitt, who owns Big River Bindery, which used to be in Atlanta, has recently moved to Toronto. So you'll get a feedback form in a minute with a link to register for that if you're interested in joining us again next month. So thanks again, Gillian, and thanks to all of you. And
thank you so much for having me and for everyone for joining.
All right. Bye.
Bye.